So it's about 48 hours right now from when the very first votes and the reporting of the votes for Tuesday's elections came in for the landslide slash bloodbath victory for one Donald Trump over Kamala. I made a video about that, just simply talking about the political part of it. Now I want to talk about the sports part of it. As usual, as expected, there are quite a few athletes who are not happy. They're never happy with Trump, and they'll always take their chances to take shots at him and just quite honestly embarrass themselves when talking about him. It's funny. It's almost like he didn't have a previous 4 year stint as president that we can look at and know that all the stuff they're saying is going to happen will most likely not happen. And plus, we do have a system in place to keep this from happening. A lot of the bad stuff they say is going to happen. If it didn't happen under people like Richard Nixon or Lyndon Johnson, it ain't going to happen. That's just the facts. But of course, leave it to the media it may as well be the media because they're all in bed together. There's this tiny little bubble, this tiny little echo chamber that a lot of these athletes find themselves in. You know, in bed with the mainstream media, the elites, P Diddy. Just these people who are doing all this stuff. They have their own echo chamber, their own bubble. To always talk about diversity, but no diversity of thought. And a lot of athletes find themselves caught up in that too. And quite honestly, it affects their careers. It just doesn't seem like they have the same oomph because they're too worried about these fake social issues that aren't really social issues, and trying to help push the propaganda machine of the mainstream corporate-backed legacy media, whether they know it or not. Offender number one is going to be somebody that I talk about quite a bit because of my newfound interest in the WNBA, the foil to the one person that I've really taken to, as well as her teammates. But this person's Angel Reese, and not surprisingly, she had some dumb things to say. She always has dumb things to say, but this is even dumber than usual. So she tweeted, I think it was the next day, just looking at it right here. She woke up speechless. Oh, thank God, I never hear her talk again. Whew. Oh, wait, she didn't mean that kind of speechless. She just does a figure of speech. And I guess she'll be doing her podcast again tonight. Which I guess is a good thing for me, because I'm sure she's going to say something stupid that I get to clown tomorrow. So, yes. So she woke up speechless. She said, "I'm so disappointed in America. Some of you just couldn't selfishly put your pride aside, huh? Could not selfishly put your pride aside." Now look, I get it. She's a product of the American 4 year education system. The 4 year American education system sucks. I went through it from 2002 to 2006, got my degree. It didn't get me jack. I went to a community college, and suddenly I was just fine. I was able to get my paramedics license, and I've been working under that ever since. She spent 2 years at a Big Ten school, then 2 years in an SEC school, so yeah, the fact she's not the most well-spoken doesn't surprise me, but I think she at least has some decent understanding of words and their meanings, like selfishly. You can't selfishly put your pride aside. If you're putting your pride aside, that's not selfishness. If you're being selfish, you're not going to put your pride aside. I don't know if she doesn't understand the word selflessly exists. And hey, this is coming from a guy who sits here and makes all sorts of speech errors. But, at least I'm not, trying to represent anything other than me. But pretty pathetic. I mean, disappointed in America, talked about how she's, worried about them as women. I guess they're talking about the abortion issue. Look, that got taken off. The only thing that changed there is federal protection got taken away. Very few states have actually banned abortion. So, at worst, you might have to drive a few extra hours to another state to get one if you want one. Now, hopefully that'll change over time, but that's just an editorial on my part. But talk about, their rights have been taken away. Well, what about the rights of your unborn child? 50, I don't know how many millions of abortions are done a year, but 50% of those are going to be women. It's 50-50, whether it's male or female. So what about those women? What about their rights? What about their rights to exist? You have no problem taking those away. But, I guess you want your rights too. So who's being selfish now, really? So, just add that to another list of things Angel Reese has and issues she has. Public relations issues, speech issues, layup issues, trying to be the focal point of an offense issues, trying to beat Caitlin Clark issues. She has quite a few. So just another day in the life for her, another disappointment, and she'll be just fine. She doesn't have a great team like the one she had at LSU to carry her through this election, and I guess it's not such a good thing. The other one I see is one Natasha Cloud, who I'd heard the name. I couldn't tell you where she played or who she played for. As it turns out, it's the Phoenix Mercury. Hey, I didn't say the Phoenix Suns. I'm proud of myself. Looks like it's the Phoenix Mercury she plays for. She had this tweet to say. Again, she first off started talking about how she's disappointed in women for voting for Trump. It's like, wow, I guess they're all wrong and you're right, huh? Let's see here. The privilege of celebrating right now is exactly what's wrong with us as people. And I guess she's talking about women. They have no privilege to celebrate. So you went out there, you suffered through 4 years of this recession and economic nightmare and everything you knew was going to happen when Biden got elected in 2020, which we'll get to in a second here. Can't prove it, but I have my opinions, as I said in the last video. So the privilege of celebrating, yeah, we 2020 sucked. This 4 years ago sucked. We knew that was not a good time. We knew that was not a good thing. And what do? Other than January 6th, which is quite honestly FBI setup, but that's okay. That's neither here nor there. Or CIA setup, something like that. But we just kept our noses down, saved as much money as we could, rallied, stood behind Trump while they tried to make sure he could not run again. He ran again. We went out en masse and voted and got him back in there. So yes, anybody who voted for him has the privilege to celebrate right now. And if you have an issue with that, you just have an issue. It's your problem, not everybody else's. Let's see here. I am truly worried about my fundamental human rights. You're going to hear me say this a million times, and I'm going to say it again. We've had 4 years of Trump as president. Things were wonderful. The country was wonderful. If you would have stopped complaining for 10 seconds, you would have realized that. The economy was better. Gas prices were better. Grocery prices were better. Electric bills didn't cost your whole paycheck. It was a good time. Nobody's rights got taken away. If anything, rights got added to. So I don't know what they're talking about. That's just them buying into the propaganda machine, which I'll also get into. Let's see, what else she say? Racism, misogyny, and hatred of women are so deeply rooted into everything that is America. Yeah, so explain to me how come 2 of the last 3 elections we've had a female running for president on the Democratic ticket and getting voted for. Yeah, if we hate women so much, how come they're having more success in the corporate world than ever? Every year, seemingly, it's more and more. You can't be that crazy. This is just pure propaganda and pure BS. It's crap. Let's see. Until we fix the roots, it will never grow. I hate to tell you this, but America has grown a lot over its 249-year existence almost, or 248 going on 249. And it's only going to continue to grow. So I don't know what she's talking about there. It's been growing from day one, and it keeps continuing to grow. We're growing as a country. We're growing. Everybody's growing. Women's, their roles outside of the household are growing. And I don't know what she's talking about. But again, that's just how disconnected from reality they are and how connected to this bubble, this propaganda machine of the left, the mainstream media, the Hollywood elites, the people with all the money, the P Diddy's of the world. They're so connected to them, and they either believe it or they're fully committed to pushing the propaganda machine. We've had 4 years of it. You're just fine. Put a lid on it. Let's see here. What else do I have? So yeah, that's that. Steve Kerr had some things to say too. Of course, he's making a joke. He's like, "Well, I guess at least this one was legitimate," and he's kind of making a crack at people like me who, in my opinion, just my gut feeling from what I'm seeing, I don't feel like the last election. I felt like there was some true messing around going on there. I do not think it was on the up and up, and I think there was a lot of rigging going on. That's my opinion. I don't have the cold hard facts, but again, there's not many cold hard facts brought to go against it either. If I'm the president and they're saying, "Oh, we don't think you did this legitimately," I'm putting every receipt on the table for the public to see as possible. That's just me. They didn't seem to want to do that, which raised red flags. The whole situation raised red flags, and quite honestly, the voter turnout for Democrats raised a ton of red flags, especially the absentee ballots that magically got counted in the swing states at 2 a.m. in the morning. At 2 a.m. Little comparison here, and this is why, quite honestly, looking at it this year, why it just adds even more to my gut saying that I was probably right. In 2016, Trump versus Hillary. So voter turnout. Trump won the election, the electoral vote, pretty easy, but he did lose the popular vote by about 3 million. So I'm rounding a little bit here. Basically, he lost the popular vote 65 million to 62 million. So 65 million, again rounded, voted for Hillary, and 62 million voted for Trump. Fast forward to 2020. Now, COVID's happening. People don't have a lot else to do. There's a lot of people stuck at home having to vote, or voting because they want to, voting because they actually have the chance to. They've been sitting in front of the TV and all that. That year, 81 million people turned out to vote for Joe Biden, or so the official reports say. So 16 million more people came out to vote Democrat that year than 4 years earlier. Now, Donald Trump had a 12 million vote increase from 62 million to 74 million. But 81 million people came out to supposedly vote for Joe Biden, who had done very little campaigning. The whole basement campaign. And then, whoops, sorry about that. As I was saying, 81 million people came out and voted for Joe Biden, supposedly. Yeah, I don't know that happened, but anyways, we're just gonna assume for now it happened. And so fast forward 4 years, his vice president over that time, who was also on the ticket and voted for by 81 million people, this year, 72 million people voted for Donald Trump, which is 2 million less than 2020. Even with COVID, that's a pretty good. It's pretty good to only lose 2 million people, considering COVID was happening and now people are having to work for their lives, and the fact they were able to find time to vote is pretty crazy. But only 68 million people came out and voted for Kamala. What happened? So how did she lose 13 million votes in 4 years? Only 3 million more votes she got than Hillary got 8 years ago during a very disaffected election, a very election that none of us were really caring for. So, do people just hate Kamala that much? That they're not willing to come out and vote for her like that? And what does it say about Trump? That, like I said, this isn't even the final tally. So, I mean, Lord knows what he's actually going to carry the popular vote for the Republicans for the first time since 2004. So maybe it's time for these athletes to realize, as well as these elites, that maybe you're just out of touch. Maybe we don't trust you. And that's the biggest thing they have to realize. The elites are going to have to take a hard look at themselves and understand that we're not in their corner. The mainstream media I've talked about, we have no faith in you whatsoever. We think you're a arm of the left. We think you're in bed with all the celebrity elites pushing propaganda. We don't believe anything you have to say. You, 2 nights ago, America showed you how much we really think of your reporting. And then you got people in Hollywood, the Hollywood elites, people like Jimmy Kimmel, one of my least favorite people. I could talk all day. Got in there, and of course, he's crying as usual. It's like, good lord, dude. He's going to try to act like he wasn't on the Man Show, which I loved in college. On the Man Show, doing all that. You know, talking about misogyny, being bad for women, objectifying them. I mean, it was in fun. I mean, I'm not criticizing the Man Show, but if you're going to sit there and talk all the shit he is about us and how we as a country act and misogyny, take a look in the mirror, dude. You are patient zero for that. So he has a little monologue last night, and he's saying it's a terrible night. It's a terrible night for so many people. So let's see here. It's a terrible night for women, children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants. Yeah, I hate that for them. They're going to have to go get a Social Security card and pay taxes, just like the rest of us. Yeah, so your little under-the-table free ticket just kind of ended. Well, if we can catch them, if we catch everybody that came across in the last 4 years, we'll see there. Let's see, for health care, really, you got to be kidding me. For our climate, again, are you kidding me? For science, science is science, period. By the way, science, what some people call science, it's not really science. Like the science that said the COVID vaccine was a good thing. Yeah, it's a bad night for that because we showed that we don't trust that. The party that pushed it the most, the Democrats, the mainstream media, the Hollywood elites that all tried to push the vax, the candidate they all endorsed just got demolished. Demolished. There you go. She got demolished. So yeah. Maybe what your idea of science is not science. For journalism, no, it was a good night for journalism. Now this fake propaganda, you know, being a propaganda arm of a party is over. Being a propaganda arm of the Hollywood elites is over. It's a good night for journalism. And back to real, actual journalism, and maybe we can actually do some studies to figure out what exactly happened with COVID and why did we freak out over something that now, if you get it, you're just told unless you have a fever, show up to work. Maybe put a mask on. We were initially shutting down the whole country and the world because of it. And maybe it's time to look back at last year's election and try to figure out why there's such an anomaly there when it comes to the voting. Because it's in the mid 60 millions for voting, the mid to upper 60 millions for voting for Democrats in 2016, and the mid to 60 millions for voting for the Democrats in 2024. Trump's the only one who stayed steady from 70, what's my numbers again here, 74 million down to 72 million. So the Democrats spiked and then went back down. So either it was rigged or this country lost a huge amount of faith in the Democrats. Or both. The answer rarely lies in one area. Let's see what else Kim will have to say here. Let's see here. Terrible night. Let's see here. Is especially terrible for women and children because, they did so bad under his first term. People want to act like those first 4 years didn't exist. Even his last year was the COVID year. I mean, that was not a bad year at all. Bought my house that year with a heck of an interest rate. Got lucky as hell when I decided to buy this place. I tell you that right now. Let's see. Women, children. There's 1,000 hardworking immigrants, poor people, seniors, and the middle class. Make up your mind, dude. As the middle class, we're in so much worse shape now than we were in 2020, even with COVID. It ain't funny. We're struggling. We're having a hard time, and we need relief as quick as possible. That's why we came out en masse for Trump. That's why we came out. People did not come out en masse for Kamala, and she got demolished. And that's just all there is to it. The media. Now, hey, you got that one right. Last night was a bad night for the media, at least the present day media, because this legacy media, the mainstream corporate media, they're toast. Our their influence is dead. It's gone. We don't trust them, and quite honestly, it's time for them to either completely rebrand themselves and fire everybody on TV and put some new people in there, or just don't worry about it and just sit back while you get bankrupt. So the choice is kind of yours. You're done. Your influence is done. Your influence has been done, and it was proven last night. So yes, hey, I agree with you, Jimmy. It was a bad night for the media. The justice system. Are you kidding me? So here's the thing. During the Bill Clinton administration, the crime bill authored by Joe Biden incarcerated a ton of black people, lots and lots of black people, and a lot of them were pardoned by Trump. Some 20 years later, or 20 plus years later, I should say, 25 years later, for being honest. Nobody wants to talk about that. So maybe the justice system's doing okay. And Ukraine. Yeah, I guess they're just going to have to find something to do with all the billions and billions of dollars they already sent them. So, I don't think what Russia's doing is right, but, at some point, giving them all these billions of dollars while we're waiting for hurricane relief, I don't think so. That's what these athletes need to realize. These athletes and these elites, Steve Kerr, Angel Reese, Natasha Cloud, Jimmy Kimmel. Guys, your time's up. If you're an athlete, at least you've got athletics to fall back on. Fall back on that and leave the political shit behind. We don't want to hear it. We don't care. It's over. If you're somebody like Jimmy Kimmel, it's just over. He never had influence to start with. He was, even during the heyday of the Hollywood elite's reign, he was just their lapdog. Nobody had any real respect for him. So he's not. He's done. And like I said, the mainstream media's done, and all the stuff that's coming out about just how awful and sick these people are. So many people, and I don't have exact names, but at the end of the day, you're still going to be guilty by association. So many people in Hollywood and so many of these rich billionaire elites. Look what's going on with P. Diddy and all the people involved there and all the just depravity and the abuse of children, the sexual abuse of children. That's what they're going to be known for, and they can't hide it much longer. People are speaking out all over the place, and people are going to understand just how depraved it is. So even if you're somebody who did not take part in the depravity, I know Jimmy Kimmel had this thing with Aaron Rodgers where he felt like Aaron Rodgers was insinuating that he was a part of the child abuse. I can't. That's a very hardcore accusation, so I'm not going to make that accusation. I'm going to assume that Jimmy Kimmel was not a part of any of it. That's my assumption. That's my legitimate assumption. That's how I feel. Until I have proof, I'm just assuming that. But even with him, in my opinion, at least from what I've heard, not really having anything to do with that, the fact that he's just ingrained himself in Hollywood culture, ingrained himself with the elites, gotten in bed with the elites, and just really made himself their guy, their lapdog, he's guilty by association. And even if he didn't do it, the fact that he's associated himself with so many people, his name will go down in history as evil, as one of the evil people. It's almost worse to not have that whatever in your head makes you do some of that stuff and hang out with people that do that when you know it's wrong than to just be naturally a sicko. So that's just how that goes, and that's what these athletes need to realize. This is serious and this is real. Focus on your sports and get as far away from politics as possible. Politics is a nowhere road, and especially the political side you've chosen to attach yourself to. Nothing good is going to come from that. And quite honestly, a lot of damage has already been done from you guys. So leave it alone. Sit back. Enjoy your tax breaks. Enjoy having people that can actually have money to show up to your games and repurchase streaming services or cable services that let us watch your games. And like I said, you don't want to be associated with these people. Even if you're like LeBron, you've been known to be at Diddy's parties, you're already in trouble. So stay clear. And to everybody watching this, thank you again for watching. And I'll catch you guys later.